So today is Power Query tips and tricks. So it's 5 things that I use fairly regularly, and some of them are just real time savers. Some of them are a little bit. I would say I've got a little bit of OCD, not a massive amount, but I hate seeing things that don't need to be there. So the first one I'll show you, it just makes things nice and clean.
Good.
It's functionally the same, I guess, but
I think we all have our sort of pet peeves with Power BI and visuals and and other bits and pieces. So yeah, totally understand that. So yeah, the floor's yours. Off you go.
Thank you. So just a little bit about me. Lovely bright orange t-shirt I got on there. So I've been doing this for a few years now, mostly in, well, the first half of my career was banking, but then I've started to move around, travel, retail, telecoms, and with in Cyper, it's everything. We're touching all sorts of industries, which is great fun. So getting to learn some new things. So I've been perm, been contractor, back to perm, bouncing back and forward. Most of my life's been with on-premise data sources, and just recently into cloud. So it's the amount to learn. That's what I love about working in tech, is you can just carry on all the time. So if anyone wants to get in contact after this, that's my email address, james.reeves@incypher.com, and LinkedIn there. As you can see, when I was a contractor back in 2011, I think I set this up. I thought Power BI was it was going to explode, so I got this before anyone else did. LinkedIn, Power BI Limited. And that was the name of my company. So I've been invested in Power BI for quite a while now. Started off with VBA in Excel, and it just onwards and learning more all the time. So right, get to the top 5 tips and tricks people are here for. So what we're going to do, first of all, is combining files. So literally picking up CSV files from a folder. We're going to do it via the GUI and see what that does, and then we'll do it via code to show you be a bit neater and cleaner. So the scenario we're going through is we are working for a bank. We've asked for a data set to come in from various countries, and Germany sent it in their own format with the date and the currency. America did the same. So we got a few different versions to get into to align, so we can stack them all together and do some analysis. One of the countries, as is always the case when you're getting data from other people, it's not quite what we asked for, but we can handle it. We don't need to go back. We're then going to calculate the age, so date of birth for our customers, and what I want to just show you comments and how they'll just make life easier for you if you do comments in Power BI. And there's 2 ways that I'm aware of to do them, and I'll just show you both of those. So to the first bit, combining files. Now this to me is one of the biggest things for Power Query if you want to sell Power Query to someone who's not sure, or Power BI someone's not sure, the ability to combine multiple files into one in a really easy way it's powerful. You can, I think everyone's been in a situation where they've had to copy and paste data from many places and stack them on top of each other and clean it up, and it's doable in Excel. You can do it in VBA, but Power BI just wipes the floor and makes it so much easier. So whilst I appreciate how easy it is, it does it's as easy as clicking that, really. It does then give you all these bits in Power Query. It's just not very neat. I prefer just to have a single line. So I'll show you how to do that, and then also to go one further and make it even neater and more concise. So first of all, let's just look at the automatic way of combining files. There we go. So if you were to come into Power Query and go to new source, more because we want to get to the folder option. Click on folder. And then wherever you've located your folders. This can actually be driven by a parameter as well, which is useful. So I have got 2 files in there we're going to combine. We've got one from England and one from Northern Ireland. We don't much, you got all these attributes, we're not going to use them really. So we just click on combine and transform data. And what that will do is generate this. It has, it looks through the file, it does all these extra functions, transforms it, combines it, and it works. It's just not very neat and tidy. And there's a few steps involved. And that's the way the GUI would do it. One way I would say is a little better. So if you look at the first step, it's the same. We go to a folder of files, and so we're still going to do that in here. Go to the same folder, doing exactly the same, except what we're going to do here is add a column, a custom column, and that is, I'll show you here, and we're just telling it we're telling it that the content within this binary, because it doesn't know what that is, we're telling it is a CSV document. So tell Power Query what it is, and then it can work with it. But you could also do this with Excel. So instead of CSV document, that would be Excel.document, I think, Excel.workbook, and that would all work for you. And an easy way to remember it is rather than, so when we went through this process here, I wish this was a little bit quicker. There we go. So when we went here and we selected the folder, we clicked on load and combine. There we go. This one here. Instead, we can click on transform data, and then we can start to do the things we want to do. So as an example, let's just give us that, and this is here. So we can click add column, we want a custom column, and it is CSV document, and we're going to use the content. There you go. Now, one thing to note is this is case sensitive, so if I was to type lowercase CSV, it wouldn't work. So there you go. So we've got a custom column there. If we get rid of the other columns, we expand it out, but if you look here, there's no column headings, so we'd have to use the first row as headers. But the problem with that is we've combined 2 files. So if we go down, somewhere along here, there'll be another row of column headers, so we'd have to get rid of that. So going Blue Peter style, you can see there, so we did the same thing, removed the columns, expanded the custom column, wrote the headers, filtered it out, and then just changed the types. It's good practice to do that. It allows the Vertipack analyzer to compress things. So a string doesn't compress very well, so let's tell it this is an integer. We know that is, and we know the date of birth, etc., dates. So it's better than the GUI, but it's not quite as good as we can get. So what we can get is here. So what do? We save 2 steps. So when we add the custom column, rather than just add in the CSV.document, we're going to go one better and actually tell it within that step that it's a CSV document, but also promote headers at the same time. Now, bear in mind, this is happening per file, so there's 2 benefits. One, you're not going to have the step for promoting headers, and 2, you're not going to have to go and filter out the extra headers that get lost. And that's particularly important if the more files you're combining, the more that's going to become a bit of a pain. So I'd say this is the cleanest way of doing it. So the only thing that is not just natively clicking is this. So you're telling it you want to do CSV.document for the the binary content and promote the headers. I think that's much neater, and you end up with the same results. So you can see the tables, they're the same, it's just a few less steps. So that was Northern Ireland and England, but Germany, when they gave us their file, it is slightly different. So they are year, month, day. I was getting into a conversation on Twitter earlier about how dates should be formatted, YMD or MDY, and yeah, it'd be good if everyone used the same one, but they don't, so we have to deal with that. So for both date columns, it's YMD for Germany, but also the currency is a full stop and a comma, kind of inverse to how we would do it in the UK. So the way we'll handle that in here, so we've brought the data in from a CSV. I haven't done combination because I'm tackling these individually because they each need to be handled in a different way. So I'm bringing Germany in and going to have to promote the headers, and I'm going to change the type. So you could go in here and click here using locale, and that will insert a step, and that will convert it to, yeah, so we want it to be a date, and it's going to be in English. So a good one to see is 14th of January 2015. I would like to just pick one which I know is not possible. So if that was YDM, I know that that's not going to convert properly. So let's have a look. Yeah, so 14th of January, that's the results we expected. So that's good. I'm going to delete that. So what you could do is to manually do date joined and turn it into a date, do the date of birth, turn it into a date, take the balance and again turn it into a number. But you'd end up with lots of different steps. So kind of like in Excel, where you can combine the calculations that you're working on, you do the same thing. So I'm transforming columns, and I can put in a list of what I want. I want date of birth to be a date, this to be a date, balance to be a number, and customer ID to be a number as well. So number is decimal, whereas this is integer, and it's the locale that you want to that you're converting from, not converting to. That's the important bit. If I did in GB, this wouldn't work. Okay, so that's for Germany. USA, very similar. Won't really go through it again, other than it's as simple as you give it a different locale. So now we have Northern Ireland, we have England, we have Germany, we have USA, we have now Wales. Now Wales did something slightly different. So if we look at the data sources, I've got CSVs from Germany, USA, also England and Northern Ireland, but Wales sent it to us in an Excel spreadsheet, and it's a pivot table. So behind the scenes, the data, these are all blue collar, and we know that because we know the way pivot tables work. So we could go back to Wales and say, look, you need to send it to us in the correct format. But on this occasion, it's not arduous to correct it. So let's do that. So bring it in from an Excel workbook. We go to the right sheet. We promote the headers. So these pretty standard first few steps. So you see all these nulls here. Now, interestingly, this doesn't work if this was if it was a CSV and these were blank strings. This wouldn't work. They have to be null values. So it's has to come from a data source that understands the concept of nulls, which Excel does. And literally, you can click there. Nope, sorry, not there. Where are we? transform, sorry, there we go. I mean, I was in add column, yeah, and fill down, and it'll do it. There you go, and it just fills down to the next value, which is populated. So that's done that. I'm going to undo that because I've already done it, and then we'll do the same change in types. We also need to rename the columns because in the in the pivot table, the balance had a space, a lead in space and an end in space, and that's not going to work for our next step because what we want to do is to stack all these tables on top of each other so we can work out an age. Now, when you stack them together, the column names need to be the same. If we do it via the GUI, we can we can combine tables, click on it, and we're going to append them. So I come from a SQL background, so merge and append, they make sense to me. Append is, you stack them on top of each other as the visual shows, and merge, actually you have a bit of each on the same level. So this would be an append, which generates the MCode of table.combine. So it's combined USA, Germany, Wales, and the that version that we had up there of the two we combined already. So at this point, we've now got all the countries together, and we can start to do some analysis. So one thing we were interested in is the age of the customer today, basically, and that is actually as easy as going to. There's a few different ways of doing this, so I'll show you the way I prefer. We can go to date of birth, and then what you notice here, actually, there's already an age column, and that's because America provided us an age rather than a date of birth. So you take the decision at this point. You can either go back to America and say, look, we need the date of birth so we can continue to do this analysis going forward, or I've decided that this is a one-off piece of analysis. They provided it 2 or 3 days ago. It's accurate enough just to carry on. Results are more important than the getting something rather than delaying the process for accuracy. You kind of have to make that decision on a case-by-case basis. So yeah, you can click on your date column, and you can go to add column, date, age. That will put a step at the end where it's worked out the age, and it goes from today's date back to the date of birth and works out in days. Funny enough, I'm not sure why it does it, but yeah, so we're looking at 9,000 days, 10,000 days, which isn't particularly useful. So what I would then do after you've got the days is to let's have a look. You go there and then go to duration, and you only want total years, and that will do this step here. So it works out duration, effectively divided by 365. Case, and there are some leap years, so you could divide it by 365.25, but it depends on how important it is to be absolutely bob on accurate. If you need to be to the day accurate, then you might have to do that outside of Power Query or go through extra steps. But I think this is accurate enough. But it gives you it in decimal, so you would have 24 years, 0.6. But you'd never say that. You would just give them, this person is 24 years old. So go to rounding, go to round down, and then that will add this step on. So now we can see nice, easy code, 24, 27. Now we've got the code, sorry, the age that America provided and the age that we've calculated for the other data sources, but we only want one source of data, so we can merge these together, and you can literally control click both of them and click on merge columns. yes, so within transform, merge columns, and that will generate a single column from both. Now, interestingly enough, I don't know why it does this. So we're going to call our new column name age. That's what I've asked for. And then it doesn't do it. You ask it to do it, doesn't do it. So what you can do is just edit the Power Query afterwards, and it will do it. Bit of a quirk. I'm not sure why it does that. I think it's because age already exists at the time it tries to do the merge, but at the end of the merge it doesn't exist. So weird that you can do it in code but not in the GUI. And then, like I said before, it's an integer, so we could format it as an integer. You can do your analysis. So that's the GUI way of doing it. There's a few different ways of doing it. So on this one, sorry, that's for date of birth. If you also wanted to do another calculation and say how old were they when they joined us, if you look at this here, this is the calculation is the duration from now to the date of birth, whereas you can actually change it. So it's the difference between date joined and date of birth. So it will work out the date diff effectively between the two, and we do the same thing. We just show the total years, we round it down, and then I just showed Germany so we can see the data. So age at join 48, they're currently 54 because they joined 6 years ago. There we go. And then my preferred way of doing it, as you may have guessed by now, there's lots of steps involved in both of those. That's quite a lot. You can do it in MCode. So MCode it's super powerful. So the more you learn, the neater you can make this. And it's not just about being neat. It's when you come to look at a later date, you'll see it's easier to follow that. I did this, then this, then this, rather than trying to go through 15 steps to work out what you did, especially when you combine steps. So this way around, I've added a custom columns, much the same as we did in the combination. So add column, custom column, and the code on this one, you'll see it's a combination of exactly what we just said. It's still doing a calculation of the date now to date of birth. Divide by 365, that's the same. We are turning that into a duration, that's the same, and we're going to round it down, that's the same. The only difference is we're now doing it in a single line of code. And we're going to merge the columns back together. Yeah, so three lines, and I think they're fairly easy to understand. You could put, in fact, I've just revealed my next little help, and that is use comments are your friend. So you can see this little eye icon that tells you there's a comment here, and there's a couple of ways of doing that. You can right click properties and put your comment there, calculate the difference between date of birth and today's date. The benefit is if I come back, if I look at this code in a year's time and I'm trying to work out what did I do here, and some of the code can get complex, so you don't really want to be sitting there working out what am I doing. You can put a comment in. So that's the one way of doing it, right click properties. Another way of doing it, if you go to the advanced editor, you can just / and then put your code. So let's just change that to combine, and you'll see that now says combine. If I put it back, the comments are back again. It's not just there either. You can also put comments in over here, which I have somewhere. I can't remember. So let's just do it again. Properties, and it's the same thing. You can click on that, and now the comment comes up rather than just showing you the text. That's rather than showing you the name of that step, it actually gives you the description we just put in. So comments are absolutely your best friend. So let me just check how we're doing for time.
You've got, it's about 1:45, so probably about 15. I'm not quite sure.
Okay, so we got
what time you start at. Just one quick comment in the chat though.
Yep.
James, and it says from John again. It's unfortunate that Power BI, I nearly said. It's unfortunate that Power Query does not have a perfect age function, one that accounts for leap years and different numbers of days in months, which of course is a valid comment. Any thoughts or comments on that?
I agree. It feels like there's something that's missing. I know you can raise an idea with the Power BI team, and if everyone goes and votes for it, hopefully we'll get that in the future. And also, does anyone want it in days ever? I suppose not for date of birth, but if you wanted to know the time between event X and events Y, yeah, okay, maybe you want days. But when you want the age, that's almost always going to be in years. So let's have a function that gives it straight to us.
Although, of course, if you were looking at fantasy football and you wanted to know the age of the youngest player who's played on the right wing for, Chester City, that great football club, you would want that in years, months, and days, of course.
Of course, and that's. It comes to football, I can't really have a conversation with that. I don't know much about it.
Okay, well, we'll move on then. I would always calculate age sort of in Power BI and DAX, because of course then it's live as per the report, as opposed to the last time you refreshed the query. But I think that's probably an aside. Over to you, bonus content.
Yes, no worries. Can you just check? You can see that on my screen, can't you? Bonus content.
I can indeed.
Cool. Yeah. So we've covered quite a few little tidbits of MCode. They've all been generated by the GUI, and then you can copy them, paste them, combine them to make it neater and things like that. But actually, what I wanted to show you is if you ever wanted to get a list of all the different M functions, you can go to new source blank query equals shared. That should be it. No, hang on, I've got it wrong. What is it? Where is that? Why is that not? Oh, okay. Sorry, yeah, silly me. It's not in here at all. So new source blank query, but you want to be in the advanced editor, and then do it through that way. So that's fine. There we go. So if you do equals shared, and it gives you this long list of functions, which you can't do a great deal with. So the very first thing is convert it into a table up here, and then literally, so let's say you're interested in date functions. You can type in date. Look. And there you go, you've got all the different things you can do in MCode with date. And then if you click on it, it takes you through to give a bit more, it lets you actually use that function. So I find that's quite a nice thing to have, that if you ever want to look up a function, you don't need to go to Chrome or anything. You can just do it natively within Power BI. So that's a good one. Creating a date dim, very useful, especially it's outside the scope of this conversation, but if you have auto date time on it and you on your model, let's say you've got 5 fields with dates, Power BI creates 5 separate date dimensions in the back, so you can bloat your model really quickly. So I think best practice, always turn off auto date dim and create your own explicitly. Now you could do it in SQL if you've got that, or if you've already got one you can link up to, great. But if you wanted to create one yourself, then you can actually do it here. Yeah, so I've grabbed this from Radicad, really good resource. I've got a list of resources at the end. Radicad's particularly good. Been around, he was SSIS originally, now he's Power Query. But yeah, so you can just specify, I've simplified this, you can have parameters so that it generates the dates that you want when you open the file. But on this one, I just want 2020 to 2021, a full 2 years. and literally you can just copy paste this into a blank query, and you end up with a data dimension with quite a reasonable number of columns, and you can add more. If you go to Radicat, there's a lot more. Well, I showed you the append here, where we started off with the where we use the combine up here. There's another way of doing it actually, which is you can open a blank query and literally use the ampersand character. That was, yeah, that's where I found my. I knew I put a comment somewhere. Yeah, you can use the ampersand to concatenate tables. So USA and Germany and Wales. That's just another way of doing it. And I think, look. So yeah, so it's not really Power Query, just a couple of ways, a couple of things you can do in Power Query, which makes your life easier. So say you've got, we've not got a lot of columns here, but say you had 50 columns, you don't want to scroll through and find them. So what you can do is you can actually go choose columns on the toolbar here, go to column, it will give you the list, which is cool. You can jump straight to it. You can type it, so you don't have to go looking. So even quicker. Something else which I've used actually, if I've got a SQL script and I've got 100 columns, sometimes I just want it to be in alphabetical order because it's easy to work with. Now this is kind of an off-brand use, but you could bring your select statement into Power Query. And then go to column and sort by name, and it will sort the columns like that. But let's have a look. Now that was supposed to format that in the same order, but I think the latest version of Power BI doesn't do that now. Interesting. But yeah, so the point being is you can also choose the columns you want to see. So if you just wanted name and surname, tick them, and it'll create a remove step to get rid of all the others. That was odd. I just think it was quite weird that was definitely working last time I checked it. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, so it is working. It must be on the choose columns rather than go to column. Yeah, so now they are now in alphabetical order. So if your query listed out the columns, it actually changes it in the advanced editor. So you could then, there you go. So you could then copy that, put it into your SQL, and it's been formatted for you. Just a nice, easy way of doing it, really. And look. So I showed you choose the column, sort alpha, go to column. QueryDependencies is another one. So if we click on there, and I'll make this my last one, I think. You can view, the QueryDependencies. It gives you a nice visual view of everything that's going on in this window. It's not just that one query, it's everything that's going on. But what's particularly good is, let's say I'm only interested in this query here, alternative append. If I click on it, it shows me the constituent parts. So I know that these are the steps that go forward to making this. So when you've got really complex things going on, you're like, well, and if I was to take this step out, what's it going to impact? This is just a real nice visual way of seeing exactly what's involved, what bits and pieces. So that's that. I think that is about it. So there's my list of resources. The datawitches.com. That's they're really cool. And the first one I showed you, the combining of CSV files, that came from them. I first learned about it from them, and I just like it being so much cleaner. It's very nice. And there's a few others. Obviously, YouTube's always good, good resource, especially if you put the hashtag Power Query, because Power Query obviously is in Excel, it's in Power BI, it's now in Azure Data Factory. It's coming to various other tools in the future. So learning Power Queries is powerful because it's many tools. So the same code can get you quite far. And I just want to shout out at the bottom to Chandu, because when I was in Excel 20 odd years ago, Chandu was a good resource for VBA, and he's still going. He's still going with Power Query. So that's it. If anyone's got any questions?
I think
Thanks for that, James.
Oh, sorry, Shab. There is one which I'll just.
Was there a question there?
Yeah, there's one that's in the Q&A which I'll just kind of publish out so everybody can read it. But I'll read it for you, James. I'm not sure if it's a question or a comment at the moment. Query dependencies looks great. That's a new one on me. The Power Query SDK add-on for Visual Studio is another really good resource. Allows you to write and run Power Query in its own client that you can then reuse in Power BI. So it looks like you can write and reuse in Visual Studio, check it works, etc., and then probably copy and paste it into the advanced editor in PQ.
Nice. That's there's I haven't done it myself yet, but I've seen someone in Notepad++. They've created their own language and imported all the Power, well, the MCode bit, so you get color coding and IntelliSense in MCode. You kind of have to do it for yourself in Notepad++ at the moment, but that's quite a nice tool I was going to look at doing in the future. So there we go. I did have one more cool thing I wanted to show you, and it's not Power Query. So if you'll indulge me, I'll show you that, if that's okay.
Feel indulged.
Thank you. And it's a calendar, which as I work for Incyper, we're a consultancy. We work with lots of clients, and we can't necessarily, they can't see our calendar if we're busy, if we're on site, off site, and they can't. It's difficult to arrange meetings sometimes because they just don't have that visibility. And it's a core part of Power BI Desktop, where you can actually get data from the Exchange server. So you log on. So you connect to your Microsoft Exchange, you log on, you get, you can choose, I'm not sure why you would, but you can bring your mail. Have a look. So you can bring your mail, calendar, people, tasks, you can bring anything in. So I'm just going to bring the calendar in, and I only want to see the start and end time, because that's where I've got things booked into my calendar, and added a custom status column just saying busy. And then with the addition of a custom visual from MAQ, Calendar Visual, you can then, I can see at a glance, and I've got this filtered to basically days forward from now. I don't really need to see anything backwards. But yeah, you can see, like, if you wanted to book a meeting with me today between 12:30 and 5 would have been a good time. Now, this is published up to the Power BI service, and it's you can refresh it 8 times a day. As you limit your eight times limit per day, so people can book in a meeting and still be relatively up to date. I've got mine every hour, but additionally, what you can do is you can share it out to the publish to web. Obviously, the caveats apply with publish to web. It's anybody can see whatever you've put in that report. So don't put anything confidential, and there are ways of searching Google to find people who've published to web. So caveat, this is really good, but don't put anything out on the web that is confidential. because there's no way of protecting it. If you publish to web, you can publish to a SharePoint site or your own site and put your own protection around it. But I just think it's a really nice easy way of sharing with someone who you don't want to have access to your whole calendar, and maybe you're not in the same Microsoft tenant or Azure directory, but you can still, they can have some visibility of your availability. So I thought that was a nice quick, and this was literally like 5 minutes tops to put together. So it's quite a nice easy way of sharing.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, definitely. Ben, are you interested in knowing how to find published to web reports and data in there?
Do you know, I was just wondering if James would stick that on the Power BI gallery as a solution. You know, obviously he has to publish it to the web, but I'm sure he won't worry about that. And of course, give out the provide a PBI X with that. But yeah, I'd be interested. What about you, Sheb? Would you be interested?
Yeah, because I've published some stuff to the web, and I'm thinking, well, how are they going to find it if they haven't got the link?
No, yeah.
I'd be interested in the backdoor Google piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've not got it to hand, but I'll send it out onto the meetup group if you like. It is literally a Google query, and it will show you. Last time I looked, it was about 15,000 sites. And if you combine that with some Google kung fu, where you say that it must contain the word confidential, you'd be surprised how many data sets are out there. So yeah, please don't publish your confidential stuff.
Cool, brilliant. No, that was a great session. Thanks, James. That was really useful, and again, a lot of tips and tricks that you can use in your day-to-day sort of Power BI reporting to make things a lot more slicker than they already are. And again, you know, similar to Marnie's sort of session, it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that you can sort of get into and have some more efficient ways of doing stuff in Power BI. Right, where are we? We've got nothing shared at the moment. Let's have a look. Ben, have you got any final comments? How do you think the session went today? What was your favorite part? What's your favorite tip and trick in Power BI? Well, let's go with that. What is your favorite tip?
In Power BI, well, from today's sessions. Obviously, I'll reference some YouTube videos that I published or something like that. Now, I think the useful one, of course, is the ability in Power Query just to quickly get all of the documentation around the functions. That's a useful one, which was shown. And of course, Marnix touched on from today's session calculations groups. Which are, as we both know, are just a great way if you've got lots of measures kind of calculating the same sorts of things, but then you want to slice and dice them. But again, as Marnix says, you've got to get into writing some good DAX code for that. But yeah, they can save you a lot of time. So yeah, I thought those were my two key takeaways. And as we watch this as producers, we can't really get the full screen. So hints and tips for everybody. This video will be downloaded. We'll split it up into Marnix's and James's session. We will stick it on the YouTube channel, which we should stick in the meetup if it's not already there, but all of our videos are on the YouTube channel. So please go and rewatch those.
Yes, brilliant. Do you know who we've got next month to hand, or are we going to wait for Alex to come back?
It's a big surprise.
Big surprise. Okay.
And a big big announcement. So
well, we do go big on this user group. We don't do things by halves, and it's probably the best user group. I know London's a bit bigger, but we have the best content.
The problem with London, of course, and we will have some people from down south on here, is
that's why they come up here, because it's better up north.
It's better up north.
A lot better.
Nice haircut, I've got to say. Actually, since I saw you last, you've had a haircut. And James, you had a comment, which is it was so good I published it. Great lockdown beard, buddy.
Yeah, that's grown a bit in the last year. And I'll weigh in on the north-south thing as well. I'm from Milton Keynes, so I'm from down south, but I've been up in Chester since '96. And yeah, I think it's better up north.
And bizarrely, we live about 15 miles away from each other, and I didn't know you existed until earlier this week, and even more impressed that you live in Chester. So nice part of the world.
Definitely.
Yeah, but it's just bizarre as well. Milton Keynes has got no history. It only existed for 40, 50 years, and Chester's got all the history. So it's been a bit of a change.
It's got Romans and everything.
Romans. Ben. Right, shall we close this up?
I think so.
Any final comments from anybody? Marnie, James, thanks for your time this evening. Great sessions, as we've already said. Some great takeaways from your presentations. Ben, thank you for handling the back end and the comments and the change of screens. And thanks for Alex in throwing us in deep end at the last minute and taking time off for himself with his newborn child. I mean. Oh God!
And thanks to Chris for stepping in for Alex as well.
Yes, thanks a lot, Chris. Chris the wingman. Right, everyone. Thanks. Have a great evening, and hopefully catch you on the next user group, which will hopefully be towards the end of April 2021. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon. It's all right, everyone.